Welcome to our second annual Oakies. This time actually releasing at the start of the year. 2025 was an interesting year for this channel. I only released 2 videos, a new low for me, but that doesn't mean I didn't finish a good handful of new games. I completed 18 games this year, 2 more than last year, so there's even more awards to give out this time. Like last year, I'm ordering the games from my least favourite to most favourite, ending with the Oakie Supreme. So let's begin by giving our annual Worst Game Award, and the award goes to Mario and Luigi Brothership. I really didn't want to give this award to this game. I really wanted to love this game, but I could not bring myself to ignore its massive faults. This series has certainly had its up and downs, but the third game, Bowser's Inside Story, remains one of my favourite games of all time. This one, however, carries some of the worst parts of the series along for the ride, as well as adding in some new ones. For starters, this game is horrifically bloated. Rarely have I played a game that feels like it would be drastically improved if it just cut large chunks out of it wholesale. This series has usually been pretty good when it comes to keeping you engaged. It weaves between new traversal mechanic, interesting or funny story beat, and fun creative boss. Brothership, however, will go for far too long without any of those 3 things happening. And don't get me wrong, they do still exist, but with how spaced out it all is, you'll have 10 minutes of a fun boss with genuinely creative mechanics, only to be followed by an hour or 2 of the most standard Mario and Luigi level design that Nintendo money can buy. Not to mention some really strange choices, like being forced to select Luigi's moves with A while performing them with B, when the series has always concretely stuck with all of Luigi's actions being performed with his own buttons. It caused some real confusion for me when I'd have to change what button I was pressing when in a battle, when previous games were far more cohesive with this. It also has a habit of running not that great. I've seen some marginal improvements playing it on the Switch too, but the stability of the frame rate still remains an issue, which is especially annoying considering how active the battle system is. It sucks because the battling, as tried as it is still pretty damn good, but the real magic of the game were the enemies you were battling in said system, and with the pace of the game being as slow as it is, it just takes too long for honest to god high points to show up. I do hope we still see another installment, since this is a franchise I believe in, but for now, Brothership will have to remain a bit of a stain on the series, and a personal disappointment for myself. The Sweatiest Woman Award goes to Resident Evil 3. I started my journey into this series in 2024 with the first Resident Evil. If you want to hear my thoughts on that one, I've got a whole video on the channel going over it. In terms of this one, I didn't think it was amazing. I didn't hate my time with this game, but I was constantly wishing I was playing something more akin to the second or first. 3 goes for a far more linear and action-oriented version of a Resident Evil game, and both those things just kind of sap a lot of the enjoyment that I would have had if it chose to keep its other survival horror and puzzle elements. Some of those things are here, but in very low supply. The Stalker enemy Nemesis is a great encapsulation of exactly what went wrong here. Nemesis is arguably the poster monster for Stalker enemies in video games, and the last 2 releases of this franchise before 3, 7 and 2 Remake honoured this mechanic incredibly well with Jack Baker and Mr. X. But when it came to readapting the OG star player, they made some questionable choices. Nemesis is far more scripted in this game than he should be. The only real free roam stalking we get with him is in the streets section towards the start, and even then, you're pretty likely to have him show up in the exact same spots all the time. Part of the fun with Mr. X is not knowing where he was at any given time. His involvement was always wildcard that could make segments of the game quite a bit more tense than previous playthroughs. He was a constant in your mind as you traverse the station. Nemesis is a lot like him at the surface. He's faster, more aggressive, but to remedy the strength of him, they made him incredibly predictable and easy to take down. The Raccoon City streets still ended up being my favourite part of the game despite this, because afterward Nemesis is relegated to very specific scripted sections that require zero creative thought to tackle. It all just ends up feeling a bit stale. Pretty much everything that I enjoy about Resident Evil 3 is just lifted from the second remake as well, so I struggle to even credit it for any strengths devised for itself. They even managed to take a step backward with some of this stuff. I don't know whose idea it was to relegate every item's map picture to be one of few specific icons. It makes it far harder to tell at a glance what I'm even looking at. I enjoy these interpretations of Jill and Carlos, and to give the game some credit, they did manage to make me feel terrified all over again at the sheer strength of the hunters, an enemy I wasn't expecting on seeing again after the first. But for an entire game, one that borders on being too short, it's a lackluster experience, and I lack the drive to jump in and replay like I did the first 2. The Single Sitting Award goes to Donut County. I want to point out before talking about this game that I also completed Resident Evil 3 in one sitting, which I really feel like I shouldn't have been able to do on a first playthrough. Donut County, on the other hand, was a fun, pleasant experience. I certainly still could have gone for a longer runtime, but for being a much smaller indie title with some entertaining banter and a chill atmosphere, I had a much better time here than in RE3. Donut County had been sitting on my wishlist for a while. I knew it wouldn't take me long to beat it, and after getting the platinum in another short indie game, Untitled Goose Game, I was looking for a similar title to do the same with. It's incredibly easy, especially if you're doing just the main story without paying much mind to the extra achievements, but it does get by on having some cute characters with funny dialogue and tickling that part of your brain that just loves sucking up entire levels into the void. It's just like that one mobile game you keep seeing ads for, but framed far better. The Technically Good award goes to Mario Kart World. This series has been hard for me to put into a box for quite some time, and the new installment is no different. It always works as an easy party game for people, even if they've never played a specific Mario Kart, and that's all well and good, but I also like having enough to do on my own, something to really sink my teeth and time into. World does make some interesting new strides to get there. The free roam mode is a neat addition, though going around randomly coming across peach coins and blue P-switches did get kind of old quickly. The game looks great and runs great, and when it really comes down to it, it's Mario Kart again. It's certainly doing its job correctly, but would it kill them to add back challenge mode from DS? A story mode? I just find it kinda hard to get hyped up about a game that firmly places its priorities in being in a party setting and not much else. I will point out that Boo Cinema is now one of my favourite tracks in the series. That one rocks. The Best Game with World in the Title award goes to Pac-Man World Repack. I owned this one for a while, but with news of the second remake on its way, I decided it was time to not only complete it, but 100% it. And I mean, come on, it's an old school platformer, so you already know I'm going to be predisposed to liking it. The game never strayed too far from its breezy nature, but I did find it engaging to collect everything a level had to offer. Some of the later stages definitely tested me a bit, and I do admit it does get some major points for just how satisfying it is to go big and eat ghosts whenever you get the chance. But I do want to stress, I got 100%, platinum and all. And if any of you have done this, you know that requires beating 9 levels of arcade Pac-Man in a row, and that isn't an easy feat. Once you get the patterns locked in your brain, you can have a few good runs, but those last 2 stages really had me sweating. It did feel really good to get that done though, only to die immediately in level 10. But hey, they're not paying me for overtime. The recipient for the highly competitive Cozy Schmozy award goes to Unpacking. I started playing this around the same time I was in the process of moving. It was recommended to me by a friend and it really hit home in ways I wasn't expecting. It manages to convey so much of your character's story with just belongings. It was heartwarming to see what kind of things survived years of moving, while on the flip side, heartbreaking to see items fall by the wayside and stop showing up. This fits as a very nice short but sweet game as well. Doesn't overstay its welcome, but I can see myself playing this again the next time I inevitably move, which I hope isn't for at least a little while because that shit can get stressful. At least I can live it vicariously through this game without all that anxiety flooding my brain. The Should Have Played 20 Years Ago award goes to Sonic Origins. I debated whether to put all 4 games on this list individually, but my opinion on them is so similar that they'd be all together on the list anyway. And besides, I didn't play the originals, I played the compilation pack. If you want to know my ranking though, that's easy. It goes Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Sonic 1, and then Sonic CD. I actually played quite a fair bit of 1 and 2 as a kid, but never finished them back then. This time I 100%ed and completed all 4, and it was quite a fun time. Origins does add some quality of life adjustments to make getting the Chaos Emeralds a little bit more bearable. Sonic was always a platformer I had a hard time grasping how exactly to play. I think because I was so used to going at the pace of Spyro, Crash and Mario, I wasn't used to having my pace mean so much. There are distinct areas in the game that are fine, even encouraged to race through at top speed, but then some require a bit more patience, and I don't think the game does an amazing job at communicating it. But if you give it some time and just try to enjoy going right, I think it does begin to grow on you quite a lot. Like I said, I already had some experience in 1 and 2, so it wasn't entirely foreign to me, but I'd often quit by the 4th or 5th zone when things got too hard. And I know people do have some hang-ups about what Origins does to these original titles, but for me, every improvement made the experience pretty enjoyable. The Best Redemption award goes to Yooka-Rayleigh. Chips on the table. I never played the original. I was eagerly awaiting it at the time, but as more and more news came out of its middling reception, my drive to play it faded. I do still wish I gave it a go, if not to be more informed of its shortcomings, but also for this remake to have had a bigger impact on me. What's kind of crazy is that it still kind of did. I was aware of some of the criticisms for the original, and the remake does almost everything in its power to be better than before. I think the only thing they could have done more is if they just straight up made Yooka-Laylee 2. Seeing how this game turned out, I'd certainly be excited for that potential release. I played a lot of DK64 as a kid, and last year I finally played and completed Banjo-Kazooie, so I'm slightly more in tune with the 90s Rare design philosophy, and this game felt like if DK64 had only one character. There's still a ton to collect, but thankfully it's missing that tedium that came from switching characters all the time. Yooka-Laylee control really good, and it's overall just a fun, solid time to explore the world and complete everything you come across. I did have a handful of performance issues in specific areas, which was strange for a PS5 game, and once I had enough pages to progress, the game felt it necessary to tell me every time I collected one that I can move forward. But at the end of it, this release scratched the collectathon itch I usually get every so often. The Best Cash Grab award goes to Pokemon Legends ZA. I have a love-hate relationship with this franchise. As the highest grossing IP ever, it's hard not to look at the games and think we deserve better. I still play every main series title as it releases, but I won't shy away from pointing out their shortcomings. Legends Arceus was a great departure from the core series with its free catching mechanics, and I'm glad we're seeing some evolution with ZA's new active battle system. Most things are better in ZA than previous games. The look of the Pokemon, the battling, the catching. Story has rarely ever been its strong suit, so I won't even bother bringing that up. But one big problem this game does have is that the world you run around in is boring as hell. Apart from a few select areas like that one wild zone covered in ice, every single place is just city, city, city. Even with the addition of the Mega Dimension DLC, every place is still just city. But at my core, I'm still a Pokemon fan that loves catching the entire dex and hunting for shinies, so the fun factor does bump it up probably more than it deserves, but that's just my vice to tackle with. The Naughtiest Dog Award goes to Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. I am a certified massive fan of Uncharted. I got the train late, playing the trilogy for the first time in 2015 when they re-released for the PS4, and played Uncharted 4 the moment it released. I even shed tears when it was all over. Uncharted 4 is one of my favourite games of all time, and it goes down as one of my favourite gaming experiences outright. So why did it take me almost 10 years to finish Lost Legacy? The answer? I don't really know. I bought it when it originally released and played up until the chapter that has that small chunk of open world to explore, and then nothing. Dropped it and I guess moved on to something else. I think it really just comes down to me having a terrible history of procrastinating games, even ones I'm enjoying, until it's too late to go back and continue off where I was without it feeling unnatural. Lost Legacy just became one of the titles that suffered the most from me doing this. These last couple years I've been making it a personal mission for this type of thing not to happen anymore, and playing and finishing Lost Legacy definitely felt like a win over my behavioral history with gaming. So what did I think? It's pretty good. I think picking Chloe to headline her own title was a smart choice. She's probably the closest we have to another Nathan Drake, and for the most part she's pretty entertaining to watch. Nadine as the second main character makes sense as well. It gave us a direct connection to 4 since Chloe didn't make an appearance in that one. Part of me wishes we had Elena instead, but I think Naughty Dog wants to put that couple on ice for now, until their daughter picks up the torch in 10 years. Lost Legacy is pretty short, but if you know me, that usually doesn't matter too much if a game does its best to feel complete in other ways. You get pretty much every beat you'd want from an Uncharted title. The open world chapter is pretty neat. You have the option to do a side mission to get this treasure seeking bracelet, and you even get a train chapter at the very end. It's a damn solid Uncharted title that, while I wouldn't put it above 4, or 2, or 3, I can definitely feel it sitting above 1. The Best Meta Story Award goes to Split Fiction. Joseph Fares' previously directed title, It Takes Two, was an incredible game. Both gameplay and story worked so well together, and the amount of creative juices they were able to squeeze from the premise is on its surface overwhelming, but in practice unbelievably intuitive. Split Fiction definitely follows in its footsteps, if only barely missing out on being as good. Yes, I didn't love Split Fiction as much as It Takes Two, but do not get it twisted. Only barely. This game still throws mechanic after mechanic at you and makes them all feel fully realized and taken advantage of in their respective levels. The story is good with a nice hefty middle finger to AI and infringement on people's imaginations, something really topical at the moment, and the game really just solidified to me that Joseph and his team know exactly what they're doing and can absolutely replicate their quality to near perfect standard from now on. It kinda makes me want to go back and play A Way Out, even though I do hear mixed things about it. Still, I'm itching for that Fares experience. The best game with the track Studiopolis in it award goes to, of course, Sonic Mania. I've actually owned and played this game for years, but it wasn't until after finishing Origins that I got the momentum to actually finish the damn thing, and it was glorious. Mania is everything I liked about the originals, fine-tuned and perfected. It's got some amazingly beautiful pixel art, and the original zones, as well as the returning ones, all have incredible visuals as well as some banging music. They even went for the second zone of every theme to have a remixed track, which especially gave some of the returning areas more reason to be there. Mania is, in my opinion, the perfect classic Sonic game, and it's truly sad to see that a sequel hasn't been released despite all the praise. The developers did go on to release Penny's Big Breakaway, and while it's no Sonic, it may still be worth a try for me. If I'm ever feeling like jumping into some Sonic, Mania will probably forever be my go-to pick. The Most Bananas award goes to Donkey Kong Country Returns. I played a bit of Returns on the Wii as a kid and liked it quite a bit, so when the chance to replay it on the Switch came about, I jumped at the chance to finish it. People have some reservations on whether the HD remastered offered really anything worthwhile, and look, I agree, it certainly shouldn't have been released at the price point it did. I'm really just going to be talking about the game itself, and that's pretty damn great. Donkey Kong's moveset just becomes so second nature to you as you progress, and the sheer variety in levels goes far beyond what the modern 2D Marios were offering at the time, and it's no walk in the park either. I'm super excited to play through Tropical Freeze since a lot of people point to that game being even better, so maybe this coming year of 2026 is the time that I play what many say is 2D platforming peak. The Hardest Game award goes to Celeste. Speaking of 2D platforming peak, Celeste is one of my friend's favourite games ever, and I dabbled in it a couple times over the years, but this time I finished it. I'm not quite 100%, but the main story at least. This game is hard as shit, so that may take some more time. You may be able to tell a lot of games this year were games that I'd played a bit of in the past, but never finished, and that's because I have commitment issues. If Celeste had a life system or a more retro checkpointing system, I would have probably thrown my controller at the screen by level 3. This game does not hold back on its level design, but luckily they had the sense to make every single room a checkpoint and to have no life system at all. This means you'll always be banging your head against the wall playing the actual part you're stuck on, rather than being forced to play through 5 minutes of stuff you finished hours ago just to get to the part you really want to get past. I did have some issues with the controls. More times than I'd prefer, I'd dash in a direction I 100% wasn't intending, and when that happened, I felt slightly cheated out of a win. This didn't happen all the time, but it happened enough that I'm bringing it up. I almost put the Pico 8 Celeste minigame on this list as a separate entry, but decided against it on account of this being a joke and I'm not being serious. Well, alright, for the sake of my friend, let's give it an honorary spot. The Best Unnecessary Backflip award goes to Leon Kennedy, as seen in Resident Evil 4, of course. If you watched my previous Oakies video, then you're probably wondering where RE2 will be showing up, and trust me, it's on here. This game, however, is a bit of a strange one for me. I much prefer the slower, more methodical sense of play with this series. 4 does not really have much of that. It goes all in on the action. There still is inventory management to a degree, but it becomes more about what you have to use rather than whether you have anything to use. There really isn't any fear that you may get stuck with only the knife, unless you're an idiot with your ammo. While again, I do prefer the Resident Evil games centered around survival horror, this is probably the best action horror game I've ever played. Going in, I knew this game was regarded as being top of its genre, and it pretty much spot on delivered what I was expecting, even being a bit more fun. One of the aspects I love most about Resi 1 and 2 is how fun it is to replay them, having all the knowledge gained from previous playthroughs. It'll be the real make or break for me whenever I play this one again, as the more action-focused Third Entry's remake I've still only played once. Something tells me this one will be different though, but until then, it still sits at a respectable 4th on my all-time for this year, for me. The Best Stalker Enemy award goes to Resident Evil 2. In late 2024, I started my journey into the Resident Evil series, and now 4 games later, the remake for the second game stands as one of my favourite games of all time. It's so well made and ridiculously replayable. It has a lot of what made me love the first so much, but with a ton of new modernizations that make it so easy to adore. The RPD is one of my favourite areas in gaming. The halls that you'll revisit again and again, unlocking new paths and figuring figuring out new ways to push forward, it just works so damn well. The inclusion of the stalker enemy Mr. X, however, elevates the vibe of this game so much, because nothing is segmented the way the first was. The RPD is constantly alive and crawling with every enemy you haven't killed yet, so many of them can follow you into nearby rooms, but Mr. X, he is actively searching for you the entire time he exists in the game world. You never know where exactly you're going to run into him. The only way you can make educated guesses is by listening to his heavy footsteps, which even then I found myself surprised by his presence in crucial times I needed space to deal with other enemies. You can't just continue on with the game. You always need to be making risk assessments when traveling through the police station, and it's that very aspect that makes me love this game so much. The sewers and lab segments are also top-notch design, but the RPD is where this game receives most of its flowers from me. Just like the first, I've already replayed this game like 4 or 5 times, and I'm sure I'll find myself trekking through these corridors again whenever I feel the itch, and I know for sure I will. The best 100% award goes to Donkey Kong Bonanza. Odyssey is one of my favorite platformers of all time. It's an amazing game, but it does have a flaw. Most of the main meat of the game is designed far more to accommodate the captures rather than Mario. Now, look, that may sound weird because that's one of the draws of the game. And while a lot of captures can be fun to play with, the core Mario moveset was perfected in this game, and I feel like it takes a back seat sometimes to other control schemes. Like, for instance, you get to that one bit in the Wooded Kingdom, Mario can't do this, so you capture that onion dude, and the onion dude can do it. The captures feel like they simply allow you to do things. Not all of them require platforming prowess, they just let you do it. Now, why am I even bringing this up when I should be talking about Donkey Kong? Well, because Bonanza kind of fixes this problem. Donkey Kong's moveset, like Mario's, is frenetic yet super tight. It's so fun to roll and jump around the world, destroying everything in sight, but the additional transformations in this game, instead of replacing Donkey Kong's moveset, simply add to it. You are always using his core moveset, but sometimes you need a little extra for somewhere else. Sometimes you'll need to master quick switching to get the most out of it. But by the end of the day, your basic moveset stays the exact same no matter what transformation you use. I'm really splitting hairs here because I still think Odyssey's still like a 9 out of 10, but I have to get real down and dirty when justifying myself to why this game is a 10 out of 10. This is just where that extra point comes from. You know, of course, I'm a platforming guy, so these games already have a shortcut to my heart, but this one will go down as one of the greats. And I'm so glad Nintendo had enough faith in an IP that hasn't really gotten the attention from them that it deserves as of late. It's been really treated as Mario's adjacent for almost the last 15 years. Pauline is also a great addition to this game. As much as it confuses the timeline a bit, but who was genuinely looking into that? I had an incredibly tough time putting this at number 2 on my overall list, as this game and the number 1 pick constantly battled in my mind for top spot. I think I opted to put this at number 2 for its only crime being that it didn't have the impact number 1 had on me. It's a genre I already love, with a development studio I trusted. I knew it would be good. Of course I didn't know it would be this good, but at the end of the day I still left being completely and utterly satisfied with what I had played, but not quite awestruck like I was with number 1. For real, these two games defined my year in such similar ways, it was difficult to order them, but hopefully I can explain why. So here it is, my personal game of the year, what I like to call the Oakie Supreme. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This game certainly needs no explanation to the people who've played it. Even people aware of how crazy its award-winning streak is probably aren't too surprised to see it win yet another Game of the Year award, even if it is from little old me. RPGs are typically not my thing. I go very surface level with my picks in that genre, stuff like Pokemon and the Mario and Luigi games, which is ironic considering where that new one came on the list. When this game first hit the scene, I immediately clocked the similar active battle system that reminded me of that specific series. I was at first intrigued, but when it released and was getting some crazy glaze in the review scene, I have to admit, word of mouth convinced me. From the prologue to Act 1, 2, and 3, I was consistently awestruck and impressed with just how much of an impact the game had on me. Its battle system is surprisingly simple, as long as you care to learn it by doing a little bit of light reading, and it's so much fun to play around with the different sets. The game kind of works in two distinct parts. The first half of the game feels a lot more on rails, with the certain upgrades you get, but the second half trusts that you spent the first learning and training and allows you to go absolute ham with everything else the game has to offer. This does end up creating one of the very few criticisms the game gets, where you can become far too powerful for some things in the late game. But honestly, I only ever felt a sense of immense pride working out insane strategies and employing them on the bosses. I earned it, and besides, I think the first half of the game where you can't really do this fills the void of a more balanced experience. Also, the devs added more stuff to make it harder on yourself, so you can really get whatever experience you want from this. I won't talk much about the story since I try not to spoil the games on this list, especially newer releases, but it is nothing short of incredible. These developers had a vision and executed it in a way that left me speechless. I have nothing much else to say except I will be anxiously awaiting their next project with the belief that lightning can strike twice. So there's my 2025 in a nutshell. If you want to see how my previous year turned out, go and watch the Oakies 2024. This year, 2026, is looking to be a year with few giant releases that I personally care about. Top of the head, I can see Wolverine and GTA 6 taking up my time, but not a ton else. What better reason to go back through the backlog list and check off some that have been starting to develop cobwebs. I'm sure you'll see what I ended up playing next year when we do it all again. Cheers to 2025, and I'd like to thank you for watching DaAcorn.